Thank you for tapping or clicking on this video. I think most likely tapping. People don't watch things on computers anymore. But those of you who watch my videos when they come out, you notice I have not uploaded in a while. I've been extremely busy working around our house and just kind of school starting and everything. But I've actually had this video made for a while, but I hadn't filmed the intro. Partially because I hate being on camera, but also because I wasn't real sure how to start this out. But this is going to be part one of a series about kayaking in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. I frequently have people ask me, where's a good place to go, starter, where's a place with a lot of current, no current, those sort of things. So today we're going to talk about paddling kind of just in the general downtown Knoxville area. This is one of the more accessible areas, and I'll talk a lot about specific spots. A few things I want to touch on before though. Always make sure you're wearing a PFD or life jacket, not just to keep TWRA happy, but if you pay attention to news at all. There's been tons of drownings around here, especially this year. It seems like just the popularity of water sports goes hand in hand with just more people out there, there's more risks. So make sure you wear a PFD. The other thing is, no matter what I tell you in this video, when you get to the ramp to put in, look at the water and decide if you think that's a current that you can handle or if you think that's an area that you can deal with. You know your own skills better than anybody. Don't feel pressured to go and think, well, I'm just going to make this happen. If you paid attention to if you call the video I did a few months ago, I actually had to rescue some kayakers. They got caught in some really strong current near Imes Nature Center. And, you know, they started off in that area, and nothing against them. They may just, you know, not understood how strong the current can be. I didn't take my kayak out that day because I knew how bad it could be. So I hope I can share that information with you all today, and it help save you from that sort of incident, but also just help you enjoy and maybe find some new places to kayak central to the downtown area. To one of my favorite websites, applications, most useful tools I find when trying to paddle is Google Maps. So this is the desktop version, and we'll show a few things on the mobile version shortly, but let's talk about just the general overview of how the river system works. Like I said, a lot of people have grown up here and maybe don't understand how everything flows. If you do, great, skip ahead. If you don't, then stick around for a second. So here is central Knoxville, or downtown Knoxville, and that's what we're going to cover in this video, is kayaking this area. So you're thinking, why am I zoomed so far out? There's a couple of reasons for that. Mainly is that Knoxville is where the Tennessee River starts. This is mile marker 652, I think it is, here at the fork. And this is the Holston River. It comes from the bottom of Cherokee Dam up here. Cherokee draws water from all the way up here into the Tri-Cities in Virginia. Douglas is here. This is the French Broad River. It comes out of the bottom of Douglas Dam and goes to Knoxville. Douglas draws water from the French Broad and Nolichucky rivers. The French Broad wanders over into North Carolina. If you've ever been to the Hot Springs area, you've probably stayed near it, and Nolichucky runs up towards the Tri-Cities as well. So you get an idea there as to how Knoxville, so this little stretch of river here, takes water from all over, I almost said all over the southeast, but for a large chunk of the area. So that's how you can get some nasty currents through here. And as I referenced earlier, I have a video where I had to do a rescue of some kayakers right here near Imes, and I'll switch over to satellite view. And it was right in here, and you notice how the river channels come together. The rivers come together, and the river channel swings up against this bank. So think of it like if you were to roll a ball and this was a hill, because it is a hill, the river does run downhill. Where would it go? If you started right here, it would probably roll this way, hit, and come this way. Same thing over in this area. You see where it's eroding away here, and then there's some pretty big bluff banks and big rocks down through here. So I'm going to go back to this view so you can see a little more clearly. But when you're paddling through downtown Knoxville, you need to be aware of how much current is coming out of Cherokee and Douglas dams. So I'm going to show you on the TPA website and application where to find that information now and how to gauge approximately how much current there will be in this downtown area. For your typical downtown paddle routes, whatever you want to call them, there's a couple different ones you want to consider. So one good paddle to take for the downtown area is to come out of Holston River Park. You can go down this little canal here and come out and take out at a variety of different places down the river. Again, if you know how much current there is, if you want to float down, there is usually a fair amount of current if Cherokee Dam is running. it's going to take around 8 to 10 hours for that current to get to Holston River Park. So you could be doing a lot of flat water paddling, but this will take you down the Holston River into the Tennessee River, or you can just paddle around this island if you'd like. You see there is some labeled French Broad shoals here. I'll cover more about that in the Holston River video. There does tend to be a little bit of current through here, even at low flow. So you can paddle down. There's a really pretty bridge to paddle under that the Three Rivers Ambulatory train goes over. And you can take out at the Imes dock, which we're going to zoom in here and take a look at. There's a small parking area and a small ramp you have to take your kayak down. And there's a really nice dock here that is I don't know if it's quote ADA approved, but it is handicap friendly to launch a kayak from. So I'm going to do some distance measuring in a second and kind of show you how far these paddles are. The other option you would have, and you can explore this really cool Otter Island area. This is the shallow side here, and this is a little bit deeper, wider side, as you can see. In the summer, you'll easily get through either side. In the winter, you may struggle to get through here. The bottom is super soft if you have to get out and step on it. I hope you enjoy the afterlife. No. You will paddle past Williamswood Castle and a few other really cool places on this little channel inside the airport island. And right over here, and you can see how you get here. You come through Island Home, take Spence Place, and see if I can find it here. I'm afraid I've gone too far. Sorry, I look like a real expert right now, huh? Here it is. You can kind of see it in the woods. Here is a boat ramp, and it's a really nice ramp. It faces down current, so when you want to take out, you can come into this little alcove, and you have a good spot to load up, or you could always unload here and go further downstream to some of the other places we'll talk about. This lot is boat trailer parking, so if you do have a trailer, you would want to park over here. There's no signs that say you can't park here, but there is a specific sign that says boat trailer parking there, so keep an eye out for that sign. So if you want to float down through here, if you say you put in at this ramp or you want to go past it, you can either come out to this point and watch the airplanes take off right over your head, or over here is some really pretty bluff wall, nice trees, that sort of thing, and come on down the river a little further. Here is the Knoxville water plant intake area, and you'll find that this place looks like a straight up castle. You actually can paddle up underneath this railroad trestle, and there's a culvert right here. And from right here, and I have a video that I will put up in the corner or maybe put in the description, where I caught a pretty good fish in here. So just giving away a free fishing spot. I know I said I didn't want to give away fishing spots, but just exploring, you'll see it looks pretty fishy in there. So as you float down, you'll see there is a old bridge pillar here. There is a geocache on this pillar, or there was last time I was there. And it's just kind of interesting to see. I don't know if they were going to build a bridge all the way across here. It looks like there's some kind of pillar over here. I always thought it was an island, but maybe there's a pillar there. I do know that there is a pillar. I'm going to skip ahead just a touch here. Over in this area, along this greenway, there's a geocache there. Somebody was going to build their own bridge across the river, and that kind of got squashed. There was no law against it. Alright, so back to what we were talking about. I know I'm going fast, but I'm trying to keep this video pretty quick. You can float down through the Island Home area and take out here. This is a really nice boat ramp and park. You can park underneath the bridge and have some shade. Just watch out for some broken glass. On a scale of 1 to 5, whether your catalytic converter is going to get stolen, I'd say it's pretty low now, but just be aware that this ramp has had some issues in the past, but I think that you'll be fine. You notice there's actually 2 ramps here now, and 2 decent docks. There's another dock underneath the bridge that's supposed to be for rowing, but I'm sure that you just taking a second to yank your kayak out wouldn't hurt anybody. That dock is actually really low to the water too, so it's a pretty easy one to drag out of if you need to, if you're by yourself. Okay, so let's keep on going down the river. Some more barge tie-off type structures here. Kind of fun to paddle around if you like the industrial areas. And then here is Suttery Landing, the very much famous and renowned dock here. That I say renowned, it's only been there for a few years, but there's always a lot of people here. So if you want to paddle somewhere where you're going to be within eyesight of a lot of people, especially on a weekend, it's going to be here. There's also bathrooms and of course the playground and the greenway and everything. But this is a pretty easy launch. One thing I do like that they did was you can get your kayak through here. There's like a little ramp slide kind of thing, so you don't have to carry it down these zigzags. And that also is the same kind of dock they have at Imes. It's more handicap friendly. Again, I don't want to speak about things I don't understand, so I don't know if this quote ADA approved, but it's pretty easy to put your kayak on there and slide into the water. Okay, let's zoom back out. Going to be a little bit of a dry stretch down through here as far as public access to the water goes. There is a spot at Volunteer Landing where they rent paddle boards from the Knoxville Outdoor Center, and the Billy Lush boards, and a few different things. It's changed names a few times. There is this little dock here. I've seen a sign there that says for their use only, but I don't know that's always going to be the case. So it may be something worth checking out if you're just dying to put it on this side of the river and paddle down in this area. Normally, once you get to around this area, the current starts to slow up a little bit, because the wider the river, the more area the water has to spread out, kind of a little bit less current. Now, that is to say that if Douglas and Cherokee are running a lot of water, there will be a considerable amount of current through here. Okay, so let's keep moving down. There is another ramp in this area. It's the Nayland Drive ramp. Here it is right here. There's a lot of construction going on right now in this area on Nayland Drive, and I think on this water treatment plant. So we take the clean water in up there, we put the dirty water in right up here. So it can be a little bit of a stinky area, but last time I was here to try to put in, this is construction parking only right now. So that was as of July of 2022. But as far as scenery goes down through this area, you have a really cool train bridge here. I'm backtracking a little bit, a cool train bridge there. The rest of this is kind of dependent on how much you're willing to explore. This is Goose Creek. It goes up basically behind Vestal. If you've ever driven Blunt Avenue down behind the Fort Dickerson Quarry, this is the creek that you see. You see just a lot of junkyards. They're actually further up. Marable Pike was a Superfund site from Witherspoon Industries from dumping a lot of toxic chemicals into this creek. So, keep that in mind. Probably don't want to go swimming in that creek. Maybe not even touch the water. But let's continue on down. Here you'll see the bluffs. You probably have seen those from driving on Nayland Drive if you're from this area. Some pretty big cliffs up here, and you really get a respect for how tall they are when you paddle by them. Further down areas to explore. This is Third Creek, as named here. There are some booms underneath this bridge. You can kind of see they catch trash floating down, and you can't really get past them easily. I don't know if legally you're supposed to go past them. I've paddled right up to and around them, have not dragged my kayak over them because I don't want to push them down and release a lot of trash into the river. But if you were to feel ambitious and take your kayak across Nayland, you can go quite a ways up Third Creek in the summer when the lake is high. Again, kind of dirty water. There's signs posted about don't touch the water, so keep that in mind. This is not going to be the cleanest area of the river to paddle, but it is nonetheless central, easy to access. So I'm scrolling on as we're going down underneath Alcoa Highway, and the next takeout point and the last two that I will cover for today, and there's a greenway here, so if you're ambitious enough to carry your kayak, you can take out a lot of different places down through here. But Marine Park is off of Alcoa Highway, a little bit challenging to access right now, just due to the construction, and it may be fine today, it may not be tomorrow depending on what they're doing. But across from here is a really cool island called, appropriately, Looney Islands, and you can see there's like a swampy area. It's a really low-lying island, and especially in the late winter, early spring, there's a bunch of birds that nest here, and I wish I could tell you what kind of birds. It's everything from herons to cranes and all sorts of things. So it's a pretty cool place to paddle. And the last place I'm going to talk about is Sequoia Park. So this is a very nice ramp to take out at. It's pretty easy access. You can see they have been doing some construction over there. This image, and just a little helpful hint down here, it says map date 2022. So this is relatively new, so they are still doing some construction. Now let's zoom way back out, and I'm going to give you some ideas of how far these trips are. So, and let me backtrack one thing. I did not talk about paddling from the French Broad, and the reason for that is there is an access point. Let's see, there's Johnson River Highway crossing over. Here's Red Stack Fulfillment and Industrial Park. If you go on paddling.net or Knoxville's website, it says there is a access point here to the river. And based on this image, you would think that's not that bad. But if you go check it out, it's pretty overgrown with kudzu, and this to here is not bad, but right here is pretty off balance, a rough little, I call them a goat trail to get down to the river. 2 people, able-bodied, light kayaks, you'll get them in there, paddleboards, no problem. And if you're wanting to do that, this would be similar to that Holston trip I mentioned at the beginning from Holston River Park. And there's a few creeks that you can paddle up into and explore. Burnett Creek is a little bit cleaner than some of the other creeks we've talked about so far. I didn't jump on and talk about this ramp because I'm a little worried if I tell people about it, somebody's going to get hurt trying to get in right here. Like I said, and I'll show a picture right here of it, it's still a usable spot, but not one that I would advise people who especially new to kayaking to go try out. But you can paddle down through the forks of the river area. You can take either path around this island. This side's obviously much more shallow, and actually has less current from what I've seen. I think the current, like I talked about earlier, with if you roll a ball down the river, it kind of goes this way. And right here is where there's a couple barge tie-offs you can see, and the current gets really strong against these bluffs. So just kind of a safety disclaimer here. It gets really rough against these bluffs and comes out into here. And you actually can sit in your kayak here, and safe or not, I don't know exactly, at times, and you can just like turn in a circle. It creates a whirlpool. There's so much current in this area if both dams are running. But stay away from that bluff, unless you're really experienced and know how to keep your distance from those rocks. So that current could push you right into it. You wouldn't want to do that. Okay, so like I said, we're going to back out, and I'm going to give you some distances. And my opinion on distance is that if you are fishing, you're probably going to do about 1 mile an hour, depending on the current. If you are just paddling along, you're probably going to do 2, maybe 3 if there's some decent current. But if you're just enjoying yourself, I like to say about 1 mile per hour. So the Holston River Park ramp, I'll show you, it's actually right here. So that's why I'm going to draw the line from the higher part of Holston River Park. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can give you some ideas of how far these are. So to do a distance measure, you're going to right click and you want to go measure distance. And let's say you follow this track here inside the island, and this may take me a second. I will speed this up. Okay, so as you can see from Holston River Park to this takeout at Imes is about 2.37 miles, or let's just say 2.25 miles, because this line's obviously not going to be perfect, but that gives you, like I said, around an hour per mile, around a 2-hour paddle float, depending on the current. Going to be a relatively short one. Okay, so let's continue. So to the ramp at Island Home Airport is around 3 miles from Holston River Park. We're going to draw a straight line to Island Home Park here. You can take out here if you're willing to drag your kayak over the grass. A little bit of limited parking here, but around 3.6 miles, 3.5 miles, depending on how straight you want to consider this line. So total around 4.3 miles if you're going to James Watt Parkway and the Ned McWhirter Park. So remember, we had about 2.25, around 3, 4.25 here. And then if you want to come over here and cross the river, by the way, be very careful doing that, to Suttree, you're around another 3/4 mile. And then we will go on downstream, assume that Nayland ramp is open one day, so around 6.62 miles. So if you were to put in, say, at James Watt Parkway, we had 4.25 miles, so you're looking at about 2.5 miles. So there, or from Suttree in this area, you're looking at about 2 miles. If we keep going downstream, this is going to be a little bit longer leg. You see my waypoint there at my fish marker. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so I can make sure I have you right on the ramp. By the way, you can zoom in. You actually can change the, I way past it, so it looks like around 9.5, 9.675, somewhere in there, miles from Holston River Park to Sequoia, and we're going to be a similar distance to Marine Park. They're right across the river from each other. So that gives you an idea of how far. We'll switch back over so you can see this a little better. That gives you an idea of how far it is from Holston River Park. So by deduction, what we're going to do is clear this off. So we're going to clear measurement, and now we're going to go up here and say that we want to float from the industrial park We'll turn our satellite view on so I can make sure I have you guys in the right spot here. So we're gonna right click and say measure distance. We're gonna go back out and we're just gonna take this to take it to the fork right here. It's a little bit further, as you can see. Actually, we'll take it down to IMS, and that way you can see how comparative that float is. And as I've said a million times, it's not that I say that it's not usable, but 3.52 miles from that ramp slash rough access point down to the IMS dock. So we've covered distance and access points. Next thing I'm going to do is show you how to look at this on TVA's website. Not this, but how to look up the water flows on the TVA website. So I just googled the TVA release schedule, and you can use a couple different shortcuts here. I'm just going to go to lake levels, and we are going to go here to this drop down, and we're going to look for Douglas and view info. And you can see in the summer, they tend to do this, pulse these generators just to keep some kind of flow coming down the river. So they'll run it for an hour or two, turn it off, run it for an hour or two. And then at some point in the afternoon, they're going to run more to get power for peak generation. So you get an idea there of between 2 and 10, and it's going to take a while. The water moves around the same pace. So you're looking at a few hours, at least probably 7 or 8, maybe 10 hours before that water gets to the downtown area. But you can see that's when there's going to be a lot bigger amount of water come down. And down here, you can see observed data. And this is going to tell you the current elevation of the reservoir and the tailwater elevation, and then the average hourly discharge. So 7:25, and you see the hours here for today. And then at 4 p.m., look at this, and actually 3 p.m. Anything over around 2 is, you're not going to paddle upstream very easily against it on the French Broad. So if you put it at that ramp I mentioned, you're going downstream. This will definitely speed up through downtown. This kind of level will. So you can see here the average outflow, they're losing them around 4,000, but they're getting in around 3,000, and they're forecasting with the rain, it's going to go up. So now we want to also go take a look at Cherokee. Here you go. So Cherokee, similar type pattern. You see, Cherokee actually puts out less water. It has a smaller watershed than Douglas does, and has dams above it, so that they have a little more control over the water. Douglas is the only major dam on the French Broad River, so it is 100% up to Douglas to slow that water down coming to Knoxville.